gleeful that I humiliated my cheating soon-to-be ex-wife. Back in February, my newlywed wife went away for a week to see her family and friends, which we had moved across the country from for her fellowship. I didn't come with her as I was saving my PTO to cash out to help fund our next move, which would have been last month, and I also needed some dental work done and couldn't delay it anymore. While she was staying with her family, she called me. I could sense something off in her voice, so I asked her what was wrong. She told me how unhappy and alone she has felt since we had moved. She said I felt more like a roommate, and that I had ruined her fellowship for her because I didn't care for the area we were living in, very high COL. I felt incredibly guilty hearing this. We had only been married 5 months, together for 6+ years total, and living with each other for 4.5 years, and she was already suggesting marriage counseling. I didn't protest. I was eager to work things out, as I adored and loved her very much. Over the next several weeks I was planning activities for us every weekend. On top of doing all the cooking and cleaning in the apartment, I had always done this though. We had our first marriage counseling session and my wife said she feared that maybe we were just too different or incompatible. Hearing this felt like a gut punch. Where was this concern prior to moving and getting married? Then came March 31st and April 1st, we went out on the former for a long walk after work and some drinks. She told me she was feeling better about things, and I felt a huge sigh of relief. The next day we went out for breakfast, then spent the rest of the day car shopping until he found something we liked. After that I took her out to a very nice restaurant for dinner. From there we went to the hot tub and had some passionate sex. I felt like we starting to get out of the valley. April 2 ND, I'll never forget this day. I woke up early, and despite the last few days seemingly going well I still didn't feel like things were quite right. When my wife had told me 2 months prior she was unhappy, I confided this to my mother. My mother's first comment to me was, there might be someone in her office. I didn't want to believe that, but it was always in the back of my head. I was up early as I mentioned, and my curiosity got the best of me so I checked her phone. Sure enough, there was someone in the office. Someone she was texting minutes after we had sex. Someone she had been sending nudes to, meeting up with, and planning future dates with. I was crushed, but then I exploded. For the last several weeks I had been beaten down thinking I was the cause of relationship falling apart. Only to find out her affair began coincidentally a few days before I received her phone from her parents' house. I woke her up and asked her, "What the fuck is this?" At that point, I just needed to unload. I called her every name in the book to break her down and to hurt her. I then called her affair partner, but he didn't pick up, so I left him some threatening messages about beating him up, and exposing them in the office. He was a subordinate of hers, and engaged himself. Maybe his fiancée would like to know. At that point, I felt I just needed to leave. I told her she needs to figure out what she wants, because she crossed the line. I went back home, but before I did she asked me to continue counseling remotely so we could repair things. I still foolishly loved her and agreed. Over the next several weeks in counseling, it became evident that she wasn't taking any accountability. She harped on the hateful things I said to her after my discovery, and how my threats to her affair partner made her view me as potentially violent, and this made her afraid of me. This is despite me never laying a hand on anyone in my life, something she knew. I wanted her to agree to an intensive marriage retreat weekend after her fellowship ended. As we're discussing it, a coworker of hers texted me, asking if I knew that my wife was cheating on me. It turns out the affair never stopped, and my separation allowed it to turn into a full-blown relationship. Everyone in the office knew, but were hesitant to tell me. She was still parading around work, talking about me like I was still living with her and all was well. I obviously had already discovered it 2 months prior, but now I knew that I was just being strung along. For what? That's I don't know. At that point, I had it. I took the evidence that I saved in April, and sent it to her HR department after calling them. I knew the email addresses of several of her coworkers and CC'd them. I sent the most salacious stuff her parents, siblings, best friends, mutual friends, and best of all, the HR department of her next employer. I let her file for divorce, as I knew that would be the end result of my revenge campaign, and it's something I should have done in April anyway. From what I'm told, she was terminated from her fellowship, and the job she was supposed to start this month. Apparently she's also emotionally distraught due to me humiliating her to family and friends, as well as destroying her reputation in the short term. And you know what? It makes me so happy. I'm glad she's been humiliated, and I only wish I could inflict more pain on her.